This is Christian Gurling, the curator at the Tillamook Air Museum in Tillamook, Oregon, and we're here interviewing another aviation personality. Yes, our guest is connected to the aviation world, but not perhaps like you might expect. Today we're interviewing actor Larry Cedar. Larry has over 200 acting credits to his name on the IMDb database and is an accomplished film, television, and stage actor. You might have seen him these last few years in American Horror Story or even in Grey's Anatomy. But if you're an aviation enthusiast and a science fiction or horror fan, you'll probably remember Larry in a ghoulish costume playing the Gremlin on the wing of the aircraft in the 1983 film version of the Twilight Zone titled Nightmare at 20,000 Feet. The protagonist of the film, John Valentine, played by actor John Lithgow, is incessantly haunted by this creature who always seems to vanish when anyone but John Valentine looks out the airplane window onto the wing, leaving one to wonder, is the creature truly real? Well, I won't give away the ending. For those of you who might not have seen this classic, I'll tell you, this is my favorite rendition of Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, of the three versions that have been done to date. And I've always loved this, Larry. It both terrified me and gave me that adrenaline rush at the same time, seeing it as a child. So without further ado, I want to thank Larry Cedar for agreeing to be interviewed by us. And Larry, it's so wonderful to have you here and take time out of your busy schedule to be with us. Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your contacting me. I was very excited to hear that about this museum, which I knew nothing about, and I've been looking at lots of pictures of it. And the fact that you wanted to include this experience I had at 20,000 feet as part of the museum was very flattering. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome. And so can you tell me where you were raised and how you became involved in acting?
It's interesting. I've told this story to my kids so many times. I grew up in a town called Pacoima, which is in the North San Fernando Valley in Los Angeles. It's a suburb. The GI Bill was something that they set up after World War II to help veterans buy houses. And my father and mother bought a house out in Pacoima on this GI Bill. It was low-interest loans. Pacoima is a small little part of San Fernando Valley, North Valley, that Richie Valens grew up in. You saw the movie La Bamba. There's a plane that crashes onto a schoolyard, and that's the junior high school I went to. That happened several years before I went there, but that's Pacoima. And that's where I grew up. And I went to high school, and then, a little further away, Monroe High School, and was not sure. I always wanted to be an actor in my heart, but it wasn't really an option as far as my family was concerned. My uncle was an actor, and they looked upon him as somewhat of a vagabond, and they said they didn't want me to have that life. So I went to UC Davis with the idea of becoming a doctor. I was pre-med, and I came down to UCLA with the idea of changing it to pre-law. I got into law school, Hastings Law School in San Francisco, and then on a last-minute whim, the last quarter of my time at UCLA, I auditioned for a one-act play, because I did do some acting on the side for fun. I was seen by one of the heads of the department there, who recommended I audition for the grad school in theater as an actor, and I said, I'm on my way to law school, and he said, no, you're not. And when he said that, a bell went off in my head, and I went, God, you know what, you're right, I don't want to go to law school. And I auditioned, I got in, and my entire life changed. Suddenly, all the questions I had about what my purpose was or what I should do in my future were suddenly clarified, because in my heart, I'd always wanted to be an actor. And when I was given the permission to pursue it academically and was encouraged by the professors there, I suddenly realized it was what I was supposed to do. And I did that, graduated. I was put under contract at Universal Studios as a contract player for 1 year. I got a pilot, started getting movies and TV and commercials and theater, and that was it. Never looked back, and I've never been happier to have found this profession. Not that it's the greatest profession in the world. I wouldn't expect anyone to necessarily feel the way I do, but for me, doing what you feel you were meant to do and what you truly love is very gratifying. And after all these years, I graduated in '78 from grad school. I still love this, maybe more now. I still love acting more than ever. It's just a fascinating field for me. So that's where I'm at today.
So you basically dropped out of law school then and to pursue acting and.
Yeah, I never actually started law school. I've been accepted and was supposed to start in the fall.
Uh-huh.
And I applied for this grad program secretly. I didn't tell my dad because I knew how upset he would be. I got accepted, and all I had to do was go tell my dad, sit down with my dad and tell him I decided not to go to law school. He was upset, but surprisingly, he didn't forbid it. He didn't say, you're not going to do it. He didn't try to strong-arm me. He said, well, listen, it's your life. That's what you want to do. He was worried. He was concerned, but they were pretty pleased because almost immediately after I got out of grad school, I started making money as an actor. And once they saw I could make a living at it, then they felt better about it. It's an insecure career. You spend more time not working than working. It's just the nature of it. But if you play your cards right, you can make a life of it, which I've been very fortunate to do, and support a family and all that. So I'd like to do it for another 20 years, but we'll see how long I last.
Were there any roles early on, particularly that you enjoyed playing?
Oh man, it's funny to say this, but I always just like getting work. Whatever job I got, I was so grateful to be working. You feel like as an actor, like when you get a job, like you've been given the keys to the kingdom, like they've opened up the front door to Disneyland, because we all want it so bad. It's so fun. Any job it always just feels exciting and just great. Later in my career, I mean, every job was great. I truly mean that. I just was so happy to be working. But people always ask me what the most meaningful job in my career was, and I always say the same. I played Leon on the series Deadwood. I played an opium addict on that series for 3 years, and that role just stayed with me forever. It just got under my skin. The whole experience was so amazing. It was a completely immersive experience. You'd show up on the set. They put you in your dirty, grungy, dusty clothes, and they had the entire town built up there in this ranch up in, north of Los Angeles, and you just felt like you were living in that world. And did that on and off for 3 years. I think I did 30 some episodes, and that's just the best job I ever had. I was the luckiest job I ever had too, because I wasn't supposed to be cast in that role. I went down for another role. They saw me and said, you know what, you should do this other role, which was only supposed to be a few episodes and ended up stretching for 3 years. So greatest experience I've ever had. I could have played that the rest of my life and been completely happy. It just was a very rich experience,
How was it early on in your career when you began acting? When you'd go in for auditions, were you really nervous, or do you still get nervous? I mean, you've done so many things. I would imagine that you wouldn't, but perhaps you do.
Well, acting is what my old acting teacher used to call a slippery art. No matter how well you think you know what you're doing as an actor, at any given moment, it can all go away. And actors usually get scared because they know that as prepared as they might be, they might go onto the set, go in front of the camera, go on the stage, and feel nothing and not know what to do. You're always scared. Early in my career, I got to be honest, I don't know how I got as much work as I did, because I was a terrible auditioner. I blew as many auditions as I nailed, and that's because I would get so nervous. And there was a feeling back then that I was being judged. When I would go into an audition, I felt like they were judging me. And the truth of the matter is, that's not true. They want you to be good. They're looking to hire someone. They're on your side. But when you're young, you just feel insecure. I managed to get a lot of work, but I did blow a lot of auditions from nerves. Now, over the course of my career, I've gotten better and better at handling that. And now I feel, at my age, I can go in and not be as nervous. I'm nervous about doing it well, but I don't think they're judging me. I'm not worried about what they think of me. I just want to do a good job. And, because, we're all just trying to make whatever project it is. So nerves never end. That's if you care about anything, if you care about doing well in any profession, you're always going to be a little nervous because you care. You want it to go well. And like I said, we're imperfect creatures, and there's going to be those times when, as much as we prepare, things are going to go our way. Now, as acting, when it doesn't go well, it's embarrassing because you just look, it's funny. Someone said the worst acting is always just a hair's breadth away from the best acting. So you can be a brilliant actor, but one wrong move and you just look like the worst actor in the world. So, I get nervous, but I still love it. I still love it,
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. Speaking of creatures, now I want to pivot to your role as the Gremlin in the 1983 film version of the Twilight Zone. So, can you tell me how you ended up getting the part and some of your initial thoughts on being cast in this role?
Well, I was coming out of theater school, so I had a theatrical sensibility about me. In fact, I was probably better at that than I was at film, which is very small and subtle. So when they brought me in, I was excited about the idea of playing a creature, because that's just right up my alley. I like doing bizarre, weird, broad, theatrical things. And the audition was for George Miller, who directed it. At the time, I wasn't really aware of what a big deal he was. I think he'd done Road Warrior already. But he's a very nice man. And all they've done is they've set up a series of long conference tables in a rehearsal room. And they had me just basically come in and jump and run across the table, just frantically creating havoc, throwing chairs, just being a kind of destructive, mischievous creature. And I had a great time. I had a really good time. Like I said, it's right up my alley. Back then, I was a dancer back then. I danced a lot, so I felt very comfortable doing that sort of thing. And yeah, somehow he seemed to kind of like what I did. I didn't really know what I was getting into, because what I found shortly after I was cast was that I needed to go down for a full body cast with the makeup artist named Craig Reardon, who created the suit, and had a full body cast and a head cast done because they were going to build this suit for my body. And it was going to be made of this neoprene, and it was going to be sculpted and painted and colored on the outside. The head was actually a piece that had wires in it, pulleys for operating the eyes and the mouth and making expressions. I was in it, but the expressions you see are done by wires and so forth. It wasn't an applied makeup; it was a mechanism. So I was game. I was into it. I was really excited, and so was everybody. And we did some tests, makeup tests. I put the suit on, and they put me on a pulley on a wire so I could kind of float, like I could fly. And we did a test. I was told it was sent to Spielberg, who was the producer of the film. Apparently, he approved it, and everything was great. We shot the first day, a lot of fun, but there were a lot of rain effects, a lot of rain and wind effects. What we didn't realize was that the suit was like a giant sponge. So if the suit weighed 40 pounds the first day, the next day it weighed 80.
Wow.
Because it absorbed all the water. So it was just a big soaking sponge I wore for basically, a week and 2 weeks. And it would take longer and longer to get into it because, like putting on wet clothes, it's difficult. But nonetheless, I was thrilled. I mean, we were making movie magic. I mean, it was incredible, the idea of playing this creature on this plane. And they had set up, and you'll appreciate this, they had set up the wing of a commercial airline plane, I don't know what model it was, on hydraulics over a deep pit. They had these deep pits in these sound stages. Maybe they used them for pools, whatever. But they had this wing set up over a deep, deep pit with hydraulics. So that's how they made the wing go up and down. Huh. And then they would, sometimes they'd have me just standing on the wing or sitting over the jet, throwing stuff in there, and they set off explosives. Sometimes they had me kind of floating or flying, and they had me on a wire with pulleys. And it was magical. I mean, I was so excited because I really felt like I was in the make-believe world of movies, and it was just a blast.
Yeah.
I don't think they would ever do that kind of thing again. It's all CGI now. They don't need to.
Right.
But back then it was all what they call practical effects. Everything was handmade. And, there were some frustrations because the suit would kind of fall apart from the water and stuff, but we got through it. It was just wonderful. A lot of fun.
So when you got the role, had you seen the original Nightmare 20,000 Feet Twilight Zone episode with William Shatner prior to getting this role?
I think I may have. I don't specifically remember that, but I do remember. I remember on Twilight Zone they had a makeup guy, and they used him for several episodes, and his monster was always some creature with a turned up kind of pig-like nose. They used that same effect in another episode. I remember thinking that's interesting, but I think I had seen it. Now I'll tell you something that was kind of fun. You know what storyboards are, right?
Yeah.
So they used to storyboard films. They come in and they show you the storyboard so you can see the kind of visual representation of how the movie was going to be shot. And that helped the cinematographer, helped the actors, helped the director. So they made up a story. They storyboarded the entire episode of Nightmare 20,000 Feet. They put it in the form of a script and they handed it to me. They said, "This is what we're going to be shooting." And you flip through the pages and you see what they had in mind. It really kind of helped get me into the story. Some 30 years later, I'm digging through some old files, and I found it. I still have it. I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
I think we shot that 40 years ago, and it's in good shape, and it's got all the illustrations, and they were hand-drawn back then. So it's the entire episode, this Nightmare 20,000 Feet, is storyboarded in the script. It's really fun to look at.
That's incredible. Yeah, I was actually just thinking about that yesterday, looking at the date. It's been 40 years since you did this role. Mm.
Crazy. It's just amazing. I can't even believe it. And the funny thing is, I don't know why, but the roles that are meaningful to you, they never leave you. I feel like it was yesterday. I feel like I could walk onto that set and remember what everything felt like, what it sounded like, and what I heard, and the people I was working with, John Lithgow, it seemed so so recent to me because it was so meaningful. There's other jobs I've done that I forget. I can't even remember them. But when they're exciting, like this was exciting. We all knew this was going to be something special. When it's exciting, then you remember, you know.
Yeah. Where was the so this particular segment was the fourth of four segments of this Twilight Zone film. Where was this particular segment filmed at?
This is filmed on the Warner Brothers lot, and I don't know if you're aware that the episode with Dick Morrow had happened several weeks earlier.
Yes.
And the trouble, and so there was discussion of shutting the whole film down, and they decided not to. And people felt one way or the other about that. Some people thought they should have shut it down. Some people thought, no, we should finish the film. So they were very nervous with my episode that no one get hurt. They were very concerned that someone get hurt. And mine was a pretty physical one. So they had a great stuntman named, I think his name was Bob Couch, a veteran stuntman. He was there every minute making sure that whenever I was on the wing, there was lots of mattress pads below and things like that. Now, we weren't dealing with helicopters, blades. That was insane. I mean, that was crazy. But that there was a kind of a sense on the set of the tragedy of the movie, and it just kind of, you could kind of feel that over the entire thing. It's hard to ignore.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I was going to ask you that question because, of course, everybody knows about that tragedy, and the fact that the movie ended up still being made is just it's astounding.
And you can see in the Dick Morrow episode. I mean, I haven't watched it in a while, but I think you actually see the scene where he's carrying kids. It's just horrible to watch now and think about. I mean, it's terrible. It was such a tragedy, Yeah. And I liked, Dick Morrow was he was one of my heroes. He was in a series called Combat, which when I was very young I used to watch as a World War II TV series, and I just idolized the guy, and those poor kids. I mean, it was very, very, very tragic,
So do you remember? So on set, you said you had this giant pit with this aircraft. Do you remember how big the aircraft was? Was it a full size aircraft? Was it just half of an aircraft mock-up?
All they had that I worked on was the wing, just a wing.
Okay.
Set hydraulics with a jet engine, and one part of the stage. Another part of the stage, they set up the passenger compartment. So the part where John Lithgow comes to the window and I stare him in the window, that was all just done on the other side of the stage. There's two sides to the stage, and that was it. There was no the body of the passenger compartment. They didn't have a cockpit. They didn't have the tail section. All they had was the middle section of the plane for the passengers to sit in, and then you come out of that and you go down and there'd be the wings set up over the pit. And that was where we spent for we were there for a good 2 weeks in that same sound stage,
Wow.
And every morning I'd come in and Craig would have spent the night. He told me he'd spent many sleepless nights during that shoot because he'd have to stay up all night repainting the suit because the water would wear it off. It would kind of disintegrate. He had to repaint the suit because he was a brilliant colorist and sculptor, and it's such a shame because when he first built the suit, it was perfect, it was beautiful, and then for the next 2 weeks it was just falling apart, basically falling apart for 2 weeks, and he kept having to repair it. I'd get in, I'd kind of get in this squishy kind of wetsuit, and kind of slosh over to the wing, and it was crazy. Filmmaking could be very intense, but we got through it.
Did you ever? Putting on this costume. I've seen pictures of you in this costume. As you mentioned, it was literally developed for you and around you. Did you ever develop claustrophobia at all, or how did you deal with being in this costume for this incredible length of time for filming?
I have to tell you, it's just the strangest thing because I've done other monster work. I was in Dreamscape, and I was Constantine. I played a monster in the movie Constantine. I've done a lot of monster work. I've done a lot of makeup work and special effects and prosthetics. And the odd thing is I can't stand things touching my face. I have real sensitive skin, and I also am a little bit claustrophobic. And yet, when it's a job, when I'm getting paid to do a job, it's a fun job. I'm able to put that aside, just put it aside, and just get into it, and just try not to think about any of that stuff. I wouldn't say I'm a tough guy, but I am a disciplined person. And if I decide something has to be done, I just say, that's it. Doesn't matter how comfortable I am, this has to be done. And I'm able to bull my way through things a lot of times that I normally wouldn't really want to do or be comfortable doing. But, like anything, there's moments in everyone's job where they say, listen, this isn't really comfortable or enjoyable at this moment, but this is the job, so I'm going to do it. And you take a certain amount of pride in that, because everyone's working hard on a set, everybody. And everyone's exhausted, and everyone's kind of pushed to their limit. And you say, out of respect for everyone, I'm not going to sit here and complain because no one else is complaining. Let's get this done. But again, what really helps is that it's just fun. I mean, the fact that it's hard is, it's hard, but you're making a movie. There's nothing more fun than making a movie. So it kind of counteracts, the negative,
So you said you were filming for 2 weeks. So how many hours of filming was going on at any one time?
We'd be in there 12 hours a day.
Wow.
I'd get there early, 6 or 7. Took about an hour and a half to put on the suit, get me wired up if I was flying. And then, I'd get over to the wing, and George Miller did a lot. You know what the term coverage means when someone does a lot of coverage? They shot the scene, every aspect of the scene was shot from many, many different angles. So, it was, I'd love to see the storyboard, how they break it down. But you had to get through all the storyboards, all the setups. And, so... It was a long day, but man, what was that? How old was I? 83. I was. We say that 40 years ago.
Yeah.
I was. Man, I was 28. I was a kid.
Wow.
I was 28. Yeah. It's crazy, and it's weird is that my wife always gets mad at me because I still feel like this business keeps you kind of young, and I still think of myself as kind of a young guy, and I'll be given a physical task in a movie or something like that, and I'll go, yeah, I got that. She'll say, honey, you're older now. You can't do that stuff anymore. Please don't do that. I just did a movie where I played a Mormon minister in 1880s.
Uh-huh.
And we're taking this. I don't know if you know much about the Mormon, what do they call it, the journeys they took to get to Salt Lake and so forth. But they were very arduous, and they had these hand carts, no horses. They would pull the carts themselves with all their stuff in it. And I had to pull these carts up these hills, and once the camera started rolling, I just acted like I was 20 again, You just get into it, you get excited, and you just do it,
And then you're just sore the next day.
Yeah. Sometimes, though, it's really weird. If you get your adrenaline going and you're really having a good time, sometimes it doesn't hurt you. It's like, if you really are into it, sometimes you don't feel it. It's the strangest thing, Strange thing.
Yeah. So is the role, you mentioned the storyboard. Was the role pretty scripted, or did you improvise at least some of the actions of the Gremlin?
It's very specifically storyboarded. There's one thing that happens in the film which was kind of improvised, and that's in the end when I wave my finger at him.
Uh-huh.
When he tried, that was improvised. That they came up with that. We kind of came up with that on the spot. We was kind of saying to John Lithgow, don't try anything. And that was improvised. And, they say that a lot of times in movies, the best scenes, the best moments are the ones that they come up with on the spot. There's a thing about making movies, and it's different from plays. In a play, you rehearse for 4 weeks, you put on the play, and the play is set, and you do it. In movies, you have a structure, you have a script, but there's these really wonderful surprises that can happen. Out of nowhere, someone will get an idea or an impulse to do something, and they'll just say something or do something. It doesn't always work, but a lot of times it's like really fresh and funny, and it kind of is a very memorable moment. And so you look for those. You never know when they're going to come, but that's one of the fun aspects of doing film. There's these nice little surprises, that pop up.
I do. I love that scene, and it's funny you say that because it's actually one of the best parts of the scene, and it's one of the most memorable. Is when you do that to John Lithgow's character, John Valentine. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of a human moment. It's kind of genuine. You go from being kind of like a cartoon to suddenly like two creatures kind of actually having an encounter, really kind of communicating with each other. Mm-hmm. And you don't expect the Gremlin to necessarily have a sense of humor, but he does. He's kind of like, hey man, I know you tried to stop me, but you didn't get away with it. It's really fun. Yeah, it really is fun.
What was it like working with John Lithgow and all the other actors and actresses on set? Mm.
I should say the best thing is to work with really, really talented people because you learn so much from them. And John, there's nobody more talented than John Lithgow, and he's a very kind person, but he's totally dedicated to what he does. There's a certain thing in acting about, kind of taking risks. And some actors are more cautious than others, but he takes big risks. Emotionally, physically, he really puts himself out there. And when you work with someone like that, you feel emboldened to take risks. You feel braver. You feel more talented. Their talent comes into you. So it's the best. The best experience I've had has been working with like stars, and 99.9% of them are very nice, very generous people, and they're happy to have you share the experience with them. And John Lithgow is certainly one of those guys. I just worked with him again. It was funny. In a series, I can't remember the name of it. It was a comedy series. Let's see if I can find it.
I saw that you did called Trial and Error.
Trial and Error, that's right. And I played a character on that. I went up to him with the table read. You always have table read script before you start shooting. And I said, John, hi. And he goes, oh my God, Larry, how you doing? He says, I'm seeing you out of costume. And he was very nice, and he's terrific. He's just wonderful. I mean, I learned that on Deadwood. I learned working with the big names on Deadwood. I mean, you just learn discipline. You learn dedication. Respect. The really great ones really treat each other with respect, and a dedication to art and a love of art. And it's just really great, and a sense of gratitude that we get to do what we do. We really are very lucky. I mean, we're so lucky to get to do what we do. It's almost too much fun. It should almost be illegal.
But it's an art that really truly enriches all of our lives.
Well, you hope so. You do your work, you do your job, you do your film. It's kind of out of our hands, but you hope that it connects with somebody somewhere. That's the hope. I mean, I do these one-man shows, like you said, of Kafka and stuff, and my hope is that people will feel as enriched by the material as I do when I read it, because I read material like Kafka and Dostoevsky and Orwell, and I feel just enriched. I just feel healthier, happier, stronger, more at peace, because they're such good writers. And so you act, when you're part of a creative endeavor, you hope that's what happens, and you never know. Sometimes it's not well done or not well received. It's through nobody's fault. It's like I say, the slippery nature of art. You hit and you miss, but that's the hope. That's the dream.
Well, the fact that your role as the Gremlin still resonates with me 40 years later should say something.
Yeah, and that's mostly a testament to George Miller and his sensibilities, his ability to communicate, a sort of magical world, But look, you work for this air museum, which is a magical place in itself, kind of like Disneyland. Think of I got excited just looking at the pictures. It takes me to a place of wonder. It's just wonder. It's just incredible. I always think about what man is capable of. We in ourselves can't fly, obviously, but we have a mind and the ability to create these machines that can take us places and do things. And look at the variety of planes you have in that museum. It's just it's just so incredible to see the human imagination at work.
Oh, absolutely.
Look, someone that would sit down that big plane outside the airframe and say, I think this can be done. I can picture it. I imagine it, so I think it can be done. And if everyone looked at him and said, are you nuts? Mm-hmm. Are you crazy? How do you get something that big to leave the ground, let alone carry something like a rocket booster in it? And the guy says, no, I think we can do it. That's a testament to the human imagination. It's just wonderful. And like I say, you're in a similar business because you're also kind of stimulating people's imaginations and kind of wonder, which is what actors do,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And no, you're right about that. And I never thought about it that way, actually. And
oh, sure. Look at how excited people get when they just drive up to that hangar.
Sure.
It's massive, and you go like, who knew that humans could do this, And it's just beautiful. It's a great. I love the pictures of the museum. It's a great looking place, man.
Well, obviously you're welcome anytime. And
oh yeah, I'd love to. If I'm ever up that way, you better believe I'll get in touch with you.
Absolutely. So tell me this. So at the end of the episode of Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, John Valentine he gets a hold of the air marshal's gun and he shoots through the window and he attempts to shoot you, and of course you reach out and disarm him and basically go with your creature Gremlin hand and grab his face with your hand.
Right.
What in the world was that signifying? What was that supposed to mean?
I'm in control. You're not.
Okay.
I'm the boss.
Okay.
I'm the boss here. I own you. I own the skies.
Uh-huh.
You're just visiting. This is my turf. This is my terrain, and I'm playing with you because I can. and whatever you think you thought you could do, you're wrong. I'm in charge. And it's kind of like almost a humbling moment, because as humans we think, here we have the planes, we have the ability, we have the technological know-how, but then there's these creatures out there who just, no. And that's what he's saying. That's what he wags his finger. He says, no, I'm in charge here. I'm the boss. And it's fun. I liked it. I liked that he had a kind of almost a smile on his face, the Gremlin. He was enjoying himself. He wasn't an evil creature. He was just a mischievous creature who was just playing. He was toying with the human. And, I just loved it. I love it, and how they wrapped it up when they go by the plane engine and it's all ripped to shreds.
Yeah, because the whole time you're wondering if it's John Valentine's imagination, and then you realize, oh no, absolutely not. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. That was a different time of movie making. I mean, there was a sort of, I talked about wonder. There was a sort of wonder to what Spielberg could do, what some of these movie makers back then could do. I mean, you used to go to a movie theater so excited because you were going to see something that was just going to be so different, so out of this world. And, I think there was almost an innocence to moviegoers back then. I think that's gone away a little bit. CGI is capable of doing so much that it's hard to believe that you could be watching like a Marvel movie and you actually get a little bored because, I've seen it, but back then you were like, what? How do they do that? So I missed that time. We used to stay. I was going to UCLA, back then, and after I graduated, I still used to hang out in Westwood, which is the town around UCLA, and there's all these huge movie theaters. And you used to get online. You get online for like an hour to see the opening night of a film like this, and you get in there, and there's like hundreds and hundreds of people, and the excitement was it's so amazing, Like you have to fight for a seat, and then once it started, it was just blow you away, away. Yeah.
I don't know if you've watched Nightmare 20,000 Feet lately, but I mean, looking back at the episode, do you think it stood the test of time? Because I certainly think it has.
Oh yeah. Oh, no question about it. No question about it. I think it far surpasses a lot of attempts. Who's doing stuff like this now is it Jordan Peele, who's got into the film Nope and the film Us?
Oh yeah, you're right.
He's doing the kind of stuff that Spielberg did, that Twilight Zone did, the TV series. He's finding out a way to really creep you out, to creep us out as an audience, and really take us to a place of like, what the hell's going on? I don't know what the secret is, but he's got the touch. I love his films because of that. And I think, I do think Nightmare at 20,000 Feet has stood the test of time. I think George Miller is a genius, and he just he really created the story from start to finish. He made the arc. Every story needs an arc. And you had the start, and you had the middle, and you had the end, and it all comes together. And of course, I think it's anchored in John Lithgow's performance. I mean, when I showed up the first day of shoot, he was shooting the scene where he's in the airplane bathroom, like losing his mind, going crazy, popping the pills. And he came out, and I was watching on the monitor, and then he came out just like drenched in sweat. And he was completely throwing himself into it. And I realized at that moment, this is a whole other level. This is like real. This isn't like some kind of kind of like a game. He's playing this for real. And at that moment, I knew it was going to be effective. But that's what I think it is. I think it's John's performance that really anchors the whole thing. Because you watch it and you identify with that terror. Is it Nightmare at 20,000 Feet or Terror? I think it's Nightmare. It's Nightmare, right?
Yeah, Nightmare. Yeah.
But you really experience that terror. I mean, as an actor, what you want to do is bring the audience into your world. You want to convince them that what you're going through is so real that they're seeing the real thing. And he really did that. He held nothing back. So, I salute him.
I think it was all of you, and it was, the directors, the producers, everybody, even going down to Jerry Goldsmith's music. I was watching the clip the other day, when John Lithgow was sitting there and this music, dun, 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 dun. I mean, it's just, it's still eerie.
Well, that one clip where he before he finally opens the shade up, and that was Jerry. Like you said, that dun 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 dun. And oh my God, you know what's coming. Everybody knows what's coming, and it still scares the crap out of you. I mean, and now I'll tell you a funny story about that, or an interesting story. So that compartment was seated flat on the stage, and all the effects of it shaking and everything were done with the camera. And I would stand outside the window, just off the window, and we had to keep timing it so that exactly when he pulled it up, he would look out, he closed it, went back to sleep, and they would place me, and then he would lift it, and I would be there. And we did it several times. My head had to be positioned just right, to be up against the window. I had to be kind of shaking my head, and they had to have all the pulleys going to do the stuff with the eyes and mouth. And I don't think I'm spoiling anything to tell you. You probably already know this, but at one point they put prosthetic eyes on John, balloons, like balloon eyes. And if you slow down, one point when I really scared him, they made the eyes expand like balloons, so his eyes almost look like cartoon eyes. And it goes by very fast. It's only a few frames, but you can see they're not real eyes. They're fake eyes because they're literally like out of a cartoon. His eyes almost pop out of his head. And those were prosthetics with like a balloon in them, a bladder. And they would pump it, and his eyes would just like bulge out. Have you seen that? Are you aware of that? You know that was fake?
No, I had no idea, honestly.
So go watch it again, and if you can slow it down, it'll help. But you'll see that his eyes just get as big as like saucers, and it's not human. It's nothing an actual human eye can do. It's a cartoonish, but it happens so fast that you feel like you're watching him just really go crazy. That it was a prosthetic eye, and if you look really closely, one of them actually gets bigger than the other. They weren't perfectly balanced. So that was a fun moment. They were just cracking up on the set.
Really interesting. Well, you had talked earlier about John Lithgow and what a big guy he was.
Yeah, he is a big guy. He's a strong guy. You know, as my career, reaches a later point, I realized that so much of acting involves genetics. You're given a certain set of gifts physically. You're either strong or weak, or we all have our strengths, we all have our weaknesses. John was given the whole package. He's physically like a tank. He's just super strong. And when you have to get performances like that, you have to be durable. You get tired out. And he just kept going all day. He's physically strong. He's emotionally strong. He's mentally disciplined. He knows how to analyze a part, study it, and apply, what he's learned to the scene. Very intelligent. He's kind of like an idol of mine. I mean, a role model. Because when you work with certain actors, you study them and say, why are they so successful? And you see, when you're working with them, they're very disciplined. They're very professional. They're very bold in their choices. They're willing to take risks. They're willing to put themselves out on a limb. And it's very inspiring. When working with him, I still think about it sometimes when I'm in a tough situation, tough scene, I'm tired or whatever, and I go, hell, man, you want to be a really successful actor, you just got to tough it out. You got to push through, and you got to make it happen, And, it's some people are more adept than others. I like to think of myself as a disciplined actor. You kind of take stock of your strengths and weaknesses as an actor, and you try to be honest with yourself. And I think of myself as a disciplined actor. I can tackle a problem and stay with it. And I've got other weaknesses which I won't discuss, but you try to work around those,
Yeah. Do you ever? So I know, obviously, you're still an actor, and you travel quite a bit, and with your role as the Gremlin, do you ever kind of mess with people like, hey, there might be a Gremlin on the wing, or guess who I played in in the Twilight Zone?
Well, I do. When you work on TV or film, you're basically thrown together with lots of people very quickly, and you become like a family, and you work intensely with them for however long, a week, 2 weeks, or whatever, maybe even a day. And so you try to connect with people on some level to make it so you're not just strangers. And I usually try to work in somewhere in the introductions that I did it because people hear it and they kind of know, then they know who you are. And they always say, oh my God, I wasn't able to, a lot of people say, I was terrified to fly for months after that. Some people are deeply affected. Some people were really scared, and some people, they just think it's really interesting. But a lot of people were affected by it, and people are always kind of tickled because, like I said, my nature is such that you wouldn't necessarily expect me to be playing that kind of character. So I'm not trying to brag, but it's a kind of an icebreaker. I'll kind of work that in because they usually have questions and gives us something to talk about, I do bring it up. So
back in 2019, they actually did another rendition of of Nightmare at 20,000 feet, which they, I guess because we fly higher now, so it was titled Nightmare at 30,000 feet. Did you ever see that?
No, and I would love to see it. Was that they reactivated the Twilight Zone series, right?
Right. Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm.
I always I remember hearing about it and wondering if I should get in touch with them, if they would be interested in my being a part of it. Because sometimes what they'll do is like Steven Spielberg is on the plane in this in Nightmare 20,000 Feet. They always try to sneak in like little what do they call them, Easter eggs. And if you watch it, there's one scene where the camera's panning up the aisle, and this man is they're scared they're going to die, and he's holding his girlfriend tight, and he's on the aisle, and like comforting her because she's terrified, and that's Steven Spielberg.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah, you can look for it. You'll see it. Camera goes like, he looks a lot younger, but I think he has the beard and everything. Maybe he doesn't, but you see it. He's just kind of like, oh no, with his girlfriend. So I always thought if they did the episode again, they might have me back and be like a passenger on the plane, just as a kind of a little Easter egg type thing. But I'd love to see it. I never saw it. Do you know who played the John Lithgow part?
I don't. I know the actor. I don't remember his name now off the top of my head. It was a good episode for what it was. Unfortunately, they didn't include the Gremlin at all. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know who it is? One of my favorite actors, Adam Scott.
Oh, okay.
He's great.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I forgot about that. Now I'm going to look it up and see if I can find video of it because I'd love to see it. I would love to see it.
Yeah, cool. As I'd wondered, since you had, played this iconic role now from 1983, if you had been approached by any of the producers from the new Twilight Zone at all. Mm.
No, nothing like that. Sometimes when that happens, they look for people from previous. Sometimes it's just kind of off the radar. I mean, let's see, they did this in what year? The next remake was done 2019. So that was like 34 years. 36 years after the original, so they'd kind of forgotten about me at that point.
Yeah.
Well, if I was offered a role like this again, much to my wife's chagrin, I'd be really tempted to take it. It's because it's just so much fun. Now, the one time I've done a couple of other monsters. I did Dreamscape. I did a snake monster in Dreamscape, and then I played a guy called Vermin Man in the movie Constantine. And that was the hardest suit I've ever been in, and I wouldn't do that again. They'd have to pay me a lot of money to do that because it was like wearing a scuba, what do they call those? Those neoprene?
Yeah, neoprene, yeah.
But over your head, like a hood, right up against my face. Wow. And they put holes in it, but talk about claustrophobic. That was a tough one. So I don't know that I want to do that again. But other creatures, I would love to do.
Yeah.
Did you ever see the movie The Crazies? I never have. No.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a role in that where there's a strange drug that's gotten into the water supply in the town. It's making everyone into like crazy, and I go through a hospital killing people with a pitchfork, and that's like the next. That's about the creepiest thing I've done since Twilight Zone. I would recommend it. It's a really good movie actually.
What is your so some of these darker roles? What does your family think about some of these darker roles that you do?
Well, I played a murderer in a movie called Hollywoodland, and a guy who kills his wife. He's jealous and suspicious and kills his wife. Was with Adrian Brody, and for the role I had to put my hair very close, very short, and wear a pencil mustache. And my wife said she didn't want to be with me for those 2 weeks. Really creeping her out. I loved it. I thought it was great. When I played Leon in Deadwood, an opium addict, I lost a lot of weight, and I carried a knife around with me, a dull knife, completely dull blade, but just kind of a character adjustment to make me feel like if someone messed with me, I knew what to do. And she didn't like that. She didn't like that at all either. But she understands. She directs me in these one-man shows now, so she understands what it is for an actor to immerse himself in a character. It's part of the process, and you never forget who you are, but you want to go there. You want to go there. You want to be that person, so that when the camera rolls, you're that person.
Sure. That's wonderful.
That's the fun of it. That's the fun of it.
Well, Larry, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to talk to us about your career and especially about your role as a Gremlin in the 1983 film Twilight Zone. So, for those of you who haven't seen the 1983 film version of Twilight Zone, you need to go out there and watch it. It is iconic now. It is a cult classic. It is literally one of my favorite films of all time.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, I'm honored that you would want to talk to me about it. As an actor, it's like it's always a pleasure to discuss your craft with people. A lot of people don't understand what we do or why we do it, and it's nice to talk about it, especially about things like the Nightmare 20,000 Feet, because it really was fun. So I appreciate your contribution.